Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here today. Whether you're tuning in during a moment of calm or right in the middle of life's storms, I want you to know something important. You are not alone. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment where life just didn't go the way you expected? Maybe it was something you'd been planning for, something you poured your heart into, only to see it fall apart. Maybe you've found yourself in a place where nothing feels certain anymore. You wake up each day hoping for a sign, a breakthrough, a glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel, but instead, all you see are more questions, more challenges. If that resonates with you, I want you to pause and take a deep breath. Life can break us down in ways we never saw coming, but here's the truth I want you to hold on to today. When life breaks you down, but God steps in. Those two words, but God, carry a promise. They remind us that no matter how heavy our burdens feel or how hopeless the situation looks, God is still at work. He sees the pieces of your life that feel shattered, and He's the one who can take those broken pieces and make something beautiful. We've all faced moments when life feels overwhelming, but the good news is those moments don't have to define us. They can be the start of a powerful testimony. Today, I want to share two stories that remind us of this truth. The story of David, a young shepherd boy who faced rejection and fear but went on to become a king, and Lauren Daigle, a modern-day artist who turned setbacks into a platform of hope for millions. As we dive into their stories, I hope you'll see yourself in them. I hope you'll be reminded that even when life seems impossible, God is greater than anything you're facing. Before we get to the stories, let's talk about those moments that leave us feeling broken. They come in all shapes and sizes, don't they? For some, it's the sudden loss of something or someone you thought you couldn't live without. Maybe it's the unexpected end of a relationship, the loss of a job, or a health crisis that turns life upside down in an instant. For others, it's a slow erosion, a dream that fades over time, a sense of joy that feels like it slipped away without you noticing. It's those moments that leave you asking, how did I get here? Moments when life feels heavier than you ever imagined it could. It's in these times of brokenness that we're most tempted to ask the hard questions. Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Why can't I catch a break? These questions aren't just about seeking answers. They come from a place of deep pain, confusion, and sometimes even hopelessness. It's human to want reasons, to crave understanding, and to long for something or someone to point to as the cause. But often, the answers don't come right away, and we're left standing in the middle of uncertainty, unsure of what to do next. The truth is, we are not alone in feeling this way, as some of the greatest stories of faith begin in moments of heartbreak and uncertainty. People like David and Lauren Daigle experienced their own seasons of struggle. Their stories didn't start with triumph. They began in places of deep pain, loss, and waiting. But what sets these stories apart is not the absence of suffering. It's what came after. In those moments of brokenness when everything seemed lost, God stepped in. Their struggles didn't define them. They became stepping stones for something greater. Maybe right now, you're in the middle of your own why moment. Maybe you feel like you're at the end of your strength, with no clear way forward. If that's where you find yourself today, I want to encourage you. This is not the end of your story. Let's start with David. His story is one of the most inspiring in the Bible, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. David didn't come from a place of privilege or power. He was the youngest of 8 brothers, a shepherd boy who spent his days out in the fields, often forgotten by his own family. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David wasn't even invited to the gathering. Imagine how that must have felt, being overlooked, treated as though you didn't matter. But while others saw an ordinary boy, God saw something extraordinary. God told Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." That's the first but God moment in David's life. Even though he was rejected by men, he was chosen by God. But the road to becoming king wasn't easy. David spent years waiting for God's promise to be fulfilled. In the meantime, he faced one challenge after another. King Saul, who should have mentored and supported him, became his greatest enemy. Driven by jealousy, Saul hunted David, forcing him to live in caves, constantly looking over his shoulder. David could have given up. He could have let bitterness consume him. But instead he turned to God. Many of the Psalms we read today were written during David's most difficult moments. In Psalm chapter 34, verse 18, he wrote, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." One of David's most powerful but God moments came when he had the chance to kill Saul. He was hiding in a cave when Saul entered, unaware of David's presence. David's men urged him to take revenge, but David refused. Instead, he said, "The Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed." David chose to trust God's timing, even when it meant staying in the wilderness longer, and eventually God fulfilled his promise. David became one of Israel's greatest kings, not because he was perfect, but because he trusted God through every trial. His story is a reminder that when life breaks you down, God can use those moments to prepare you for something greater. Now let's talk about Lauren Daigle. Today, she's one of the most influential Christian artists in the world, but her journey to success was anything but smooth. Lauren grew up with a passion for music, dreaming of one day using her voice to make a difference. But in her late teens, her plans came to a screeching halt. Lauren was diagnosed with an illness that forced her to step away from singing and take a 2-year break. For someone who had tied her identity to her voice, this was devastating. She described those years as a time when she felt lost, unsure of what her future would look like. But God wasn't finished with her story. During those 2 years, Lauren began to draw closer to God. She realized that her worth didn't come from her talent or accomplishments. It came from who she was in Him. When she finally returned to music, she brought with her a renewed sense of purpose. Lauren faced another major setback when she auditioned for American Idol. Although she made it far, she didn't win. At the time, it felt like another closed door, but in hindsight, Lauren sees it as a blessing. She's often said that if she had won, she might have pursued fame instead of God's calling. Her breakthrough came when she began writing music that reflected her journey of faith. Songs like You Say and Rescue have touched millions of lives because they speak to universal truths about identity, hope, and God's love. Lauren's story is a modern reminder that even when the path is filled with detours, God's plan is still unfolding. So, what does all this mean for you and me? It means that no matter what you're facing today, there's hope. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs we didn't see coming, unexpected detours, heartbreaks, or losses that leave us feeling like we've lost control. But the good news is, we serve a God who never loses control. Those two words, but God, remind us that no matter how impossible the situation seems, He is greater. He specializes in stepping into broken moments and rewriting the narrative in ways we never expected. David's story reminds us that God doesn't see us the way the world does. When David was overlooked by everyone else, God saw his heart. The same is true for you. You may feel forgotten or insignificant, but God sees you. He knows the struggles you're facing, the weight you carry, and the prayers you've whispered in the dark. And just like He did for David, God can take what seems ordinary and use it for something extraordinary. When life breaks you down, remember that God hasn't forgotten you, even if it feels like the world has. Lauren Daigle's journey shows us that God's delays are not His denials. Sometimes when doors close or setbacks come, we're tempted to believe that our dreams are over. But Lauren's story reminds us that God can use those closed doors as a way to redirect us toward His greater purpose. What felt like a detour was actually preparation. Maybe the delay in your life right now is not meant to stop you, but to shape you. God uses these waiting seasons to refine us, strengthen us, and draw us closer to Him. Both David and Lauren faced moments when their situation seemed hopeless, but they chose to trust God anyway. Trusting God doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means believing that He is still working, even in the pain. It means holding on to hope when circumstances make it hard to see a way forward. In Psalm chapter 46, verse 1, we're reminded, God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. That's the promise we can hold on to when life breaks us down. We may not always see what God is doing, but we can trust that He's present and He's working for our good. Wherever you are today, whether you're feeling stuck in a cave like David or sidelined by setbacks like Lauren, don't give up. Your but God moment is coming. God is still writing your story, and it's not over yet. In His perfect timing, He will take the broken pieces of your life and create something more beautiful than you ever imagined. Hold on to faith, keep pressing forward, and trust that the God who brought David from the fields to the throne and turned Lauren's setbacks into a global platform is the same God who is at work in your life right now. So, wherever you are in your journey, hold on to this truth. When life breaks you down, but God steps in, your story isn't over. The same God who turned David's trials into triumphs and Lauren's setbacks into a platform of hope is working in your life too. Even when it feels like things are falling apart, trust that He's holding everything together. This week, take a moment to reflect on your own but God moments. Look back at the times when He showed up in unexpected ways. And if you're still waiting for your breakthrough, trust that it's coming. God's timing is perfect, and His plans for you are greater than anything you could imagine. I'd love to hear from you. If today's message resonated with you, take a moment to share your experience in the comments below. Have you had a but God moment in your life? Maybe you're still in the middle of a struggle and holding on to hope. Whatever your story, your words might encourage someone else who needs to know they're not alone. Stay strong, keep believing, and remember, you are never alone. God is with you always. Thanks for watching, and if this message encouraged you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you next time. Have a great day ahead, and God bless.